Hi, I want to take just a couple minutes to talk to you about the goal of the path, the spiritual path. Now, as humans, we love goals. We always want to know where we're going, what's going to happen, and have little milestones that we can check off and know that yes, we're almost there. And, we like to measure progress. But when you get into advanced spiritual practice, you start to realize that there is no goal, that there's nothing to strive for, that you already are awakening. Even if you haven't quite realized it yet, you are enlightened. And we can hear this intellectually, but it doesn't help us very much if we're not there yet. But we still cling to this notion of having a goal. So instead of thinking about it that way, I want to invite you to consider that the path is really more about refinement. It's about refining your awareness so that you can see more clearly, so that you can feel more deeply, and so that you can be of more service, ultimately. When we practice, there's two aspects that we utilize or talk about on the path, and that is wisdom and compassion. Sometimes they're compared to the two wings of a bird, where if you have one without the other, you can't fly. Now, wisdom is this undefinable emptiness from which all impermanent things sprout. So there's really not a whole lot to say about wisdom. We can say that it's an awareness of impermanence, that we know these bodies, these minds, this world is all temporary and it's all in transition, that nothing is solid in the way that we in our human minds want it to be, that we cling so tightly and try and make it in a certain way. And that's wisdom, is realizing that things aren't that way, that they're empty. And then there's compassion. Compassion is the active principle. It's the other side of the coin of wisdom, where we encounter the world with the sincere wish that others awaken. So we have all this different things that we do that we kind of put under the label of skillful means. So we might teach meditation. We might show somebody the inner silence, and that awakens their intuitive knowledge of that inner silence. And it's this wonderful gift that we give. It might be being kind to somebody, and that moment of kindness, that loving kindness, awakens their heart. It might be teaching somebody how to get a job. Sometimes skillful means has a very practical aspect to it, because we have these bodies to support and we're living and working in the world. So to have the ability to help somebody live a happier, brighter life is a wonderful skillful means. But yet, as we're practicing, we're doing our meditation and we're going into silence and touching upon the wisdom, the emptiness. And then we're active in the world, practicing loving kindness and our compassion, all these different skillful means. We still have in the back of our mind that, oh, we got to get somewhere, that we need to accomplish something. But the longer you're on the path, you realize how a ridiculous notion that is. But when you first encounter it, when you first realize that that is a ridiculous notion, there can be this very heavy sense of nihilism that overcomes us. It says, well, what's the point of all this? And at that moment, a few different things can happen. We can just revert back to clinging to a goal and deciding that, oh, once I get the right technique, then I'll get there. And we fixate in our mind that enlightenment is a thing that we can then possess and own. And we go back on the hunt, trying to find the just right way to get there. Or what can happen as we go through this dark night of the soul, if you will, of nihilism, we just give up. We say, oh, well, I've just spent all these years for nothing. It doesn't mean anything. And we stop and we lose our way on the path. And we might get lost for a time in worldly pursuits, trying to fill that sense of longing to know our true nature. But the good news is eventually we find our way back. Once you've tasted that emptiness, that stillness, that silence, once you have touched light and it has been a conscious experience, then there's no going back. You're gonna keep going eventually. But like I said, sometimes we take the scenic route. Or the third option is we learn to laugh. We realize that, oh yes, it is ridiculous to think that enlightenment is a goal, that we could actually get there. And it doesn't stop us in any way. We keep practicing. We keep refining our being. We keep looking for ways to be of service in deeper and more profound ways. We look for ways to love more deeply with less attachment. We start to do the really deep work of being willing to see where we're hung up, where we're still grasping. And we do it in not such a way that we're trying to force ourselves free or beat ourselves up for still having these graspings. But we do it with a sense of humor and a certain lightness. And little by little, we become more and more free. And the expression of that freedom becomes more and more refined. So I want to invite you to kind of let go of the goal for a while. It's fun to have goals as long as you're not attached to them. That's the big catch, right? Is our human mind organizes the world in a very linear way. where we want to see that progress. So we have a project and we have a goal, something that we want to accomplish. And then we'll have little milestones to get there. And that keeps us excited and motivated, and it gives us something to talk about with other people. But the moment that we become attached to that goal, we've failed. We might still reach the goal. We might still, hit all of our milestones and do whatever it is that we set out to accomplish. But when we do, we won't be happy because we'll be grasping. We might have a moment of pleasure that says, oh, yes, I succeeded. And then there's that big heaviness, that let down of like, oh, it's over. And you're still clinging. So instead, I want to really invite you to look at that deeply, to notice the different aspects of your life where you're clinging, where you're grasping. And instead to embrace this practice of refinement, which means that you don't take a sledgehammer into your life and to your practice, but instead you look at the grasping with that gentle sense of humor and say, oh, look, I'm holding on right here. How does that feel? What is this doing for me? How is it stopping me from seeing my true nature and the full spectrum of reality unfolding before me? So forget about goals for a little while. Continue to refine yourself and your life. Bring that sense of play and fun, and just see what happens. So thank you, and have a wonderful day.